Hey guys, welcome back to Allison Unfiltered. I am so excited because I have one of my favorite people in the whole world on this with us today. This is my amazing son Gage. He's my mini me. He's my right hand kid. He's just like God knew what he was doing when he gave me Gage for sure. Um, he is a really special human being, and I'm so excited you're here, Gage. I really am. I never thought that someone that I would get to interview one of my kids, right? That was one thing that I wasn't expecting. And then one of our fans, Jen, actually asked. She said, "I want to know Gage's story. I want to know more about him and how he got into orchids and all the things that he does. He's just you're such a multifaceted human being. And so I'm excited for you to share. So, welcome to the podcast today.
Well, thank you. I never thought that I would be on your podcast. I just thought I would listen and hear about your podcast, but I didn't think I was going to be a contributor to that, but I appreciate it.
Well, I think you have a pretty great story, I mean, you've been through some things in life and you found a way to turn it positive and put your heart and soul into things and make things just a positive thing for you. So, um, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do in orchids, what you're involved in now, and then we'll get into, kind of how it started.
All right. Well, I am in college and I am graduating this semester, and I am so ready to be done with that. But I'm getting an associate's degree in business management, and hopefully that will allow me to grow my own business where I buy orchids wholesale from Hawaii and resell them here. But my hope in the future is to be able to grow them myself and hybridize them myself. So, taking one flower and crossing it with another to create unique genetic babies that I can grow out and sell to the greater public and maybe even the big box stores and stuff like that. But I mean, orchids and plants are my entire life. It's not just a hobby. That's not what this is. It's my life, and not many people think of it as an entire life decision, but plants are what I live and breathe.
And I think one of the neatest things is how old were you? Tell me a little about the Central East Texas Orchid Society. How old were you when you joined it, and where are you at in that group today?
So with that, it's a little fuzzy on how old I was. I think it was like either it was 2014 or I was 14. So
You were
I
14.
really don't. I was 14. Cool. Good to know that. So with the society, I started off. I was there for the first year or two, and then I ended up started working at Walmart, or excuse me, no, I was started working at Rounders Pizza, and I wasn't able to go to the meetings because they really wanted me to work on Sundays when the meeting was happening. Then I started going and working at Walmart, and I was able to go to the meetings every month for the most part. And I was able to use my PPTO and just go. And I was really excited about that. And that's been allowing me to grow in the society. And last year I was elected vice president of the society, and now this year, elections came back around, and in November, I became the president of the Central East Texas Orchid Society. And I believe I'm probably one of the youngest members to ever be a part of the society, and most definitely the youngest member to become the president of the society.
Yeah, I would say so, because most of those people are in their 50s and 60s and 70s and even 80s,
Yeah.
and I always, you one of the things you grew up doing was going with your granny to the beauty salon where she worked at in a nursing facility, a nursing home, and you grew up around elderly people, and you have such an incredible you just have such an incredible way with them, and they adore you. So I think it's just so perfect. And there's so many things in your life that fell into place, So when you were little, you didn't want anything. You wanted stuff to look at bugs. You had a greenhouse when you were 5. You wanted dirt for your birthdays so you could plant stuff. I mean, and people were like, "What? You want us to bring dirt for his birthday? That's what he wants?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's what he wants for his birthday." So, what got you started in loving plants? Like, what was your first memory of that?
So with all of I've been trying to figure out my life plant story, and I think it really leads back to kindergarten. And in kindergarten, they have all these little science experiments and whatever it may be. But we were growing lima beans,
I
and
remember your lima bean.
that was I think you remember the one from fourth grade, but the one in kindergarten, it was like a pinto bean or a lima bean, something like that. And we started growing these plants, and I really don't remember what happened to it. Um, but I just know that I really enjoyed it, and I got to take it home with me. And elementary school was is the entire time I was building my love for plants, because I know in fourth grade is whenever I had this lima bean plant growing in a little water dish with some toilet paper in it, hoping that it would grow. And it ended up falling off my desk one day and breaking in half. I was I was devastated. And you know what I did? Like the entire plant broke in half. There was no leaves left on the plant. I threw the top part away, and then I just set it on my desk, kept it watered, and within, a few weeks it was growing again, and it had tons of leaves, and I ended up taking it home and planting it in my playhouse. I filled my playhouse with dirt that I dug out of the yard, and I put my lima bean in that playhouse, and it was blooming, and it never actually produced any seeds, but it did create little seed pods that never developed. But it was a really fun experience that I remember very fondly, and I never knew that a plant could be that resilient, especially growing in a fourth grade classroom.
For sure, for sure. So you've always had a love for plants and animals for sure. I know that you did a lot of gardening with your granny. So did that help stimulate your love for plants?
Love or addiction, because with when I was with my granny, she was my enabler for sure. And I mean, I loved going to her house, because every single summer we would have projects. Like almost every single week, there would be a new project for us to tackle. And, I would go and work with her in the beauty shop. And then after the beauty shop, we'd leave around 11 or 12. We'd get some Whataburger, and then we'd head out to the plant shops, and we would just pick up whatever. I would probably get one or two more plants that I was definitely maybe on a plant ban already. And I really enjoyed doing that with her. And we now I don't like sweating, but I would sweat my butt off planting in the yard, digging up holes, and it
Right,
was just I was having the time of my life.
right. Well, and I know you got both your grandmothers on your side because they used to, like Mimi would come over and you'd come in the house and you'd go around to the backyard and she'd sneak plants over the fence for you or through the gate for you and hide it because we would tell you like no more plants. You cannot bring any more plants into this house. And there's probably like 150 plants upstairs in our house right now because
Oh yeah.
you've taken over the upstairs plant
I don't
wise.
know about
Well, pretty much. So tell me about how you got into orchids. What struck your interest in orchids?
Well, I mean, I never really knew about orchids. I kind of what really got me going with orchids was my great uncle Rick. He came over Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I always thought he was kind of weird, and I just never spoke to him. And I was like, okay, this dude with a bowl cut, what is he doing here? Who is he? Apparently, he was my great uncle. And I, you know, I really wish now that I could go back and talk to him. He ended up passing away from pancreatic cancer, and we went to his funeral, and his wife, everybody knew that he was a plant lover except me, apparently. uh I think I remember somebody telling me, oh yeah, he likes plants. Oh, cool. But I don't know. And we she couldn't take all of these plants home, and she was like, yo, just please take one, take two, whatever, because I can't take care of these all at my house. And I said, well, mom, this one's really pretty on the table. And she goes, yeah, my great aunt Karen, she looked at them and she goes, yeah, those are orchids, that's what Rick used to grow, and they're really hard to take care of. And I was like, really, are you sure? And mom was like, yeah, we're not going to take that one home. Why don't we get this little corn plant over here? And I was like, okay. And you know what actually went and died? The corn plant. So it probably would have been better if we got the orchid. So either way, they might have been doomed. But that was my first experience with an orchid, and getting in, like, after I saw that first orchid, I can't even really tell you what it looked like, but I just have the imprint of knowing that's the first time I saw what an orchid was. And, I think, what was it? A few months after, we ended up moving houses, and just out of the blue, just out of a random turn of events, two houses down was my neighbor, a master gardener with a giant greenhouse full of hundreds of orchids. And I can't tell you how excited I was. She, she invited us into her home, and she goes, I've got a greenhouse out back. I said, that's a greenhouse? I thought it was like another part of the house, just in general. And she brought us back there, and I was just awestruck by the amount of plants. And it was a sea of green and just flowers everywhere. And, she was like, well, would you like to take one home? I said, what? You want me to take one home? And she goes, yeah, I'll tell you how to take care of it. And, I said, okay. Well, I took it home, and I said, here's the perfect place for it, in my mom's office. It's actually right behind you to the left. My mom was like, are you sure you really want to put it in my office? It's pretty now, but when does it, when it stops blooming, what are you going to do about it? I said, well, I don't know. uh, Long story short, I had this orchid in her office. I kind of neglected it. It stopped blooming, which is totally normal for them. The blooms only last about 3 months. I didn't know that then, but I knew that the orchid was still alive. And she was like, okay, well, you need to do something with it. Go take it down to your greenhouse. Okay, let me take it down to my greenhouse. Little did I know that orchids could get sunburnt a lot easier than we can. And let's just say the orchid didn't even last a day. It was completely dead after the first day. I I think I went back down to the greenhouse 2 days after I put it down there, and I know, with the temperatures that it was getting up in there, and the way that the leaves looked, they were very crispy. And I took it to Miss Linda, and she goes, yeah, no, it's dead, you killed it. And I was like, oh no. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to ask for another one. And then from then on, like, I went to Lowe's and I would buy a plant. I would ride my bicycle to Lowe's through Rose Redmond trails, and I would buy a plant, an orchid, and I would bring it back home. And I thought $12 was a lot. $12 was, like, for a plant, $12? I was like, are you kidding me? And I thought that that was a real big investment. And so I took these orchids home as easily as I could without disturbing them. And that was very hard to do, riding a bicycle with one hand. But, and then, I kept on doing that. And
Yeah, that plant ban. I remember one of the first times you talking to Miss Linda. Um, Joe was outside and they had roses they
oh,
have roses in their front yard. And you stopped. We were out walking around the neighborhood and you stopped and asked him about roses, and then that's how you met. But I think that the interesting the interesting way that it worked out, like, we had Uncle Rick's funeral, we moved a few months later, and then you met a master gardener, right? I mean, it could not have been more. And she's been such a huge part of teaching you, about orchids. And then, you have the internet, and you've done so much research and so many things. And so I remember the first time you came to me and you're like, I think I figured out what I want to do when I grow up. And I was like, what? You're like, I want to have a nursery, my own nursery, and I want to hybridize and create my own orchids. So you have accomplished that in creating your own orchids. And so what is your species name for the orchids that you decided on?
You were close on it. It's a genus.
Genus.
The
Sorry,
genus is
listen, I'm not the pro.
Paphiopedilums. The genus is Paphiopedilums, and really, the Paphiopedilums are nicknamed slipper orchids because of the little pouch that they have. You stick it on, you take it off, you stick it on your finger. It looks like a little house slipper. And crazy enough, this just another odd turn of events. This was my great uncle Rick's favorite orchid as well, and I even have one of his own Paphiopedilums to this day that came from a society member that was like, "Hey Gage, I have one of his orchids. Do you want it?" I said, "Well, how much do you want for it?" She goes, "Are you kidding me? Here, take it. Like, it's yours." And it's still alive, and she never got it to bloom, so hopefully I can get it to bloom and see what it is. It's a very interesting an orchid, and for sure, because I know it's going to be gorgeous.
Well, and that's an interesting thing too, because Rick was involved in that for a very long time, and he was part of the society, and the fact that he had given someone an orchid, and then and it comes back around full circle to you, I think is one of the neatest things. Even that, but like, he was featured in the Tyler paper, and he was featured, with his greenhouse, and when he passed away, his wife had messaged me, and she said, "Hey, I know Gage is into plants. Does he want to come to Rick's greenhouse and get some of his tools?" So you even got to work with some of his tools, and I know he's proud. I know he's looking down on you and just really proud of what you've accomplished. And if I had all the money in the world, I'd build you the most beautiful greenhouse that you could ever imagine. I mean, that's one of my dreams one day, is to help you do that.
Yeah.
I think you have such an incredible gift, but it's not the only gift that you have. You have, you're artistic, you're creative, you love animals, and so will you share a little bit? Because everybody loves Toothless, and
Mm.
I didn't even think about getting him out so everybody could meet him, but everybody loves him. So will you share, because I think it's one of the neatest stories ever, will you share the story of how you and Toothless met?
So, at the Career and Technology Center when I was in high school, my senior year, it was in the first year of the horticulture class, um, and I was one of like 8 students, I think, that opted to get into that class. And
Which you ended up teaching.
yeah, yeah, I did end up teaching because they put a vet tech teacher and an architecture teacher together, and they said, "Oh yeah, they'll be able to teach horticulture. Why not?" Now, granted, the architect teacher, she was had I believe she had a class over botany, um, but that's about it of how much they knew about them. But then when it came to Toothless, the vet tech teacher always had animals in her room. She had pigs, goats, dogs, kittens, puppies, whatever you could name, and she had it there every once in a while. And I mean, she brought her dogs every single day. And she goes, my snake passed away last year, and I don't have a reptile that lives in my room. And she's like, well, my son has a lizard, and I think that I should bring him down here, right after Thanksgiving break. I was like, okay, that would be great. I would love to like help out and all that stuff with it. And she brought down this tank, and she brought the lizard, and it took a lot of convincing and reminding her to get this lizard to the school because I really wanted to meet him. I was like, okay, let's see the lizard. Let's go. Like, I want to see it. She finally brought him down, and she said his name is Toothless. I said, "Oh, from How to Train Your Dragon." She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Did your son name him?" She goes, "Yeah. My son didn't really want him anymore. He was getting bored with him, and he just lost interest." I said, "Okay, well, I won't. So let's see. Let's figure out this Toothless situation here." And over time, I ended up buying
And tell
Toothless.
tell people what Toothless is.
Toothless is a bearded dragon, aka Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. Now, I started buying. I said, "Well, Toothless is in this tiny 20-gallon tank, and he's growing. He's going to get bigger." And I looked, and I was like, "Man, there's like no decor in this tank." So I went buying, and I ended up buying him a new tank. I got him a 40-gallon, so double the size what he was in. It has doors on it. It's like a little mansion for him, okay? And it's decorated to the best of my abilities, and I made a custom background for him and everything. And so whenever we, they were kind of like, "Oh, well, this is Gage's lizard." Like, whenever other teachers would come in, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is Gage's lizard," but he wasn't actually
So
mine.
talk about the first time you met him and what happened when you two first met, you and Toothless. Do you remember you telling me,
Uh-uh.
or do you want me to tell it?
Go ahead. I don't remember.
You said that the first time you met him, when you held him, he changed colors.
Oh. Yeah, yeah. He changes colors a lot, and usually it's based on his mood. And I think he got really happy, and he got to the point where in the classroom I would come in, and I was one of the first students to come in the classroom, but as soon as I started talking, he would pick his head up and start looking around, and he was looking for me, and I thought that that was really adorable of him, and it really just it made me happy, and I think that I made him really happy as well. And to get Toothless to where he is today at our house, it took some issues and problems to get him here. I believe it was in December, winter break, or was it spring break?
Well, first of all, I want to tell a little bit about our side of it. And while I'm doing that, I think it would be really cool if you could just step around and pick him up
Okay,
and bring him.
okay,
Can you do
yeah.
that? Okay, so you do that and I'll tell the story. So, um, Gage says, "Mom, there's this lizard and he is so cool and he needs somewhere to go." Right now, we already had a gecko lizard, right? But he needs somewhere to go over Thanksgiving and Christmas break. Hi, big boy. Oh my gosh. So, y'all, that is Toothless. He's really big now. He's a little over 2 years old now. You can just put him up on your shoulder and he can just
He
hang it.
doesn't eat a plant.
Oh, he might eat a
Yeah, I
plant.
think that's what he was
Well, you have
trying
to
to
put him
do.
over the other shoulder. Little stinker. So, he came home with us for Thanksgiving break. He came home with us for Christmas break. We got used to him. We fell in love with him. He's half the size he is now. He first started coming, he was the cutest damn lizard on the planet, and I love reptiles. So, everybody in our house was pretty cool with it. And he's such a sweet boy. Um, and then I'll let you tell about when we had Snowmageddon and what happened and the
Was
rescue.
that Christmas break or was that spring break?
No, that was Snowmageddon. That was right before spring
Okay,
break.
so my timeline is always messed up, but so
Well, it doesn't matter when it was. It was really cold outside and we had Snowmageddon and we had snow for
yeah,
days.
the
They shut
career
everything down.
technology center where he was at had no power, and nobody was going to school, nobody was checking on him, and I said, well, it must be getting really cold in that building because he had no heater, no heat pad, no nothing. So, and he didn't have a food source either. We usually feed him a lot on the weekends before we left, but this had been days. And so we were like, okay, well, it's time to go rescue Toothless. And I, you know, kind of am a teacher's pet, and I already had all the teachers' phone numbers. So and the assistant principal of the school. So I called her up because my teachers weren't really responding to me, and I called her up and I said, "Hey, I need your help." And she's like, "Okay, well, let's go get Toothless." So her and her husband happened to be the principal of my high school, and so they showed up at the Career and Technology Center because there was no way to get inside without a key. So we had to get them to get the key, and we got
Well, and mind you, it was ice and
completely.
snow, and everybody, like, they had to take a Jeep, and I mean, there was ice everywhere. Everything was shut down. No one had
Yeah,
electricity. It was
yeah,
crazy.
and the concrete leading up to the doors was ice patches everywhere. You'd slip, and it was very dangerous trying to get him outside the school. So I got to the tank. He was huddled up, and he just wasn't that happy. But and I think I remember you know him hearing my voice and his head popping up again. And we sat there and talked a little bit, and then we finally figured out, okay, we've got to get this 40-gallon tank out of this classroom and down the way to the car. Well, I believe we found a cart that we put the tank on. We slowly walked it down, and then we were like, well, we can't take this cart outside because all of the snow and ice. And so we opened the back trunk of the car, and I believe it was me and my principal. We picked up the tank and we decided to move it to the car. And I remember almost slipping on a piece of ice because like you just couldn't see it, and it was just a little bit darker than the rest of the concrete. And I was doing my best, but I mean the 40-gallon tank is heavy, especially with everything that was in it. And we did our best, and we got it in the car, and then there was the drive home, which took a lot longer than I was hoping, and he got a little stressed out. But once we got home, we moved him onto the dresser, and we turned his heat lamp on, we turned his heaters on, and he got nice and toasty. And he ended up staying. After that, he didn't ever come back to
Yeah,
the
well,
school.
I made a decision that day that if that's how he was going to be treated, he was not going back. I made an executive decision that day, and he became our lizard, and our like our love, right? I mean, I love this lizard like it's like my grandbaby lizard. And the thing too is that he still does that. When I have him downstairs and you come home from work and he hears your voice, he still turns his head and looks
Yeah,
for you. You know, and I just think it was like love at first sight for both of you. Like you fell in love with him, he fell in love with you, and animals are very in tune to people. And he is just, I mean, I don't know, you can't see the whole how big he is. Like you can't
yeah.
see his tail. Like, can you hold his tail up in the
I mean,
camera so
he's
everybody can
about
see?
like 2 feet, I want to say, or more than that.
Yeah, he's probably about 2 feet long. Yeah, and he's just. It's been a beautiful thing, watching him grow and develop, and watching you grow and develop. I mean, you have so many great talents and so many neat ideas, and I
Sometimes too
mean
many for my
this
own good.
y'all this kid. Yeah, sometimes too many, but I mean, he can sew. Like if I need something sewn in the house, like, oh yeah, I still need you to hem my pants for fling, by
I
the way. But if I need something sewn in the house, like Gage is gonna get a sewing machine out and sew it, right? He's just so multi-talented. It's just crazy. And it's been like I can't wait to see what you're gonna. I know you're kind of grown up now, but I really can't wait to see what you are when you grow up fully.
That's a
And
mystery to us all.
I know, right? I know. And you have your hands in so
Yeah,
many different things, and I think it's great. It keeps you busy, and you're in school and you work full time, and you're in school full time, you work full time. You have Slippergenics Orchids, which is your Facebook, your business. You're part of the Central East Texas Orchid Society. You're the president of
Mhm.
it. Like you have a lot going on. And then in the middle of all of that, you figure out how to make time for the people that you really care about. And I think that you're an incredible human being, and you just have to know that, you're so loved. And uh, I just, I thank God for you every day. And, you know, what else is there about you that sets you apart from other people, do you think?
What doesn't set me up?
Like,
I mean,
well, I mean, that's a thing, right? I mean, you struggled growing up. There were some things that happened, and things that you struggled with a lot growing up, and you could have very easily let that take you down, and you could have easily, but what was it that I always told you?
you is smart, you is kind, and you is important.
That too, but what about what
You
did I
are
always tell you growing up?
a survivor and not a victim.
Right.
Yeah.
You're a survivor. You're a survivor of everything that you went through, and you wake up every day, Gage, and you could choose to be a victim of the things that you went through as a kid, and things that you still struggle with even now, right? You could choose to be a victim of all of that and let it bring you down, but you don't. You're a fighter and you're a survivor, and you have taken that anger and that disappointment and turned it into something that gives you strength and power and is allowing you to grow into the man you are growing into today, and I could not be more proud.
Thank you. One thing that I've really had to learn is, throughout elementary school, I was bullied, and even middle school, I was bullied, and it everybody called me gay. Well, obviously, here I am now, but I wasn't ready to accept that. And, even people calling me Nicholas by my first name, it got right under my skin. And I've had to teach myself people's words, they don't matter. You just have to go through life and not worry about what other people think about you and what other people say about you. Whatever they say has no bearing on who you are and what you do. Because if you allow those people to get under your skin, you're just not going to have a positive aspect of life. And one thing that I try to be all the time is positive. And, I may not always be positive, but I try and lean into the positive aspects of life, because if you don't, then you're just going to sink into a deeper hole. And where is that going to get you? Nowhere.
Yeah, and that strength is, I mean, you're 19 years old, and to have that kind of wisdom at 19 and that kind of strength, it's so powerful, Gage. I mean, you there are people that would kill to be able to have that kind of attitude, and they just don't know how. So what do you think? What do you think that you do on a daily basis to continue that strength?
It
Do you think it's like words of affirmation? You just talk to yourself positively? Like what is it you do daily that someone else could pick up from this and do for
Well, I
themselves?
think one thing, not necessarily that I do, but it's a thought that I have. You know how you have the saying, "Sticks and stones might break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Well, that's not necessarily true. Words can hurt people, and they hurt me for my like when I was younger, like the entire time. When I took that and I turned it around, and I said, "Well, these words can only hurt me if I allow them to." So, being
Bingo.
able to just shed that water off your back, that's what you have to do, and not being worried about what other people think about you, because if you just do that, it's not going to be good. And every single day I try and wake up and be positive. And it's hard to be positive sometimes, because I know you have those days. And lately I've been having more of those days, and it's hard, but I think what I do every single day to get me up and at 'em and going every single day is, I think I think my plants are what helps me, and everybody around me, the people that I love, having somebody around you to just boost you, it really really helps.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things we talk about in principles of leadership is your agency. And your agency is how you react to things that happen to you and how you handle yourself, right? And you have always had such a mature sense about you, and there's times that you get down, and I think the hardest time for me is to ever see you cry, because that doesn't happen often, right? And so I know you're in a really hard place when that does happen, but you think about your reactions before you react. You don't lash out, you're not impulsive. um and I think that's something that you've learned
Yeah.
how to do, how to teach yourself, and I think that is just absolutely incredible because you have such a sense of who you are and yourself. And it's incredible to watch. I mean, I can't believe that I made you. I mean, there was a little bit of help, but I can't believe I made a human being like as amazing as you. And so um I'm one of the most proud mamas on the planet. You light up my life every day, and I know one of these days you're gonna move out and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do without you, but and Toothless, because that'll be sad. I'll have to come to your house all the time. Uh but with that being said, I mean, you I'm so grateful for you. I really am. And I'm grateful for the positivity that you exude in our home, because it helps us as well. And you're responsible and you're consistent and you're just I mean, you're just going to be a great productive
I
member of
I,
society.
I hope so. I
So,
hope I'm producing a lot of orchids at least.
yeah. And you got plenty of spankings
Yeah.
growing up, and you're very disciplined, and you know that, you know what can be tolerated and you know what won't, and you know the rules,
I may
um
test them once in a while,
and yeah,
but
I mean,
for the most part, I'm good.
yeah. Well, and I think the biggest thing too is you want good
Yeah.
things for yourself, right? You don't just get good grades and things for other people or to show other people. You do it for yourself to prove to
Yeah,
yourself that you can, and you
I
push yourself.
with when it comes to my college grades, it's not or my grades in general, going from high school to college and stuff like that. I wasn't really ever worried about what you would think about my grades. It was always about what I think about my grades and how I think I should be doing. And, I always strive for an A. What are you doing? He just yawned. um, yeah, but I always strive for good grades, and I think that's just the competitive side in me. And I'm competing with myself,
Mhm.
and I don't like if I get a 99, I'm gonna be mad at myself because I should have made 100. Because it's just that competitive side in me that's always competing with myself, which is building myself and making me better in the future. And it's a vicious cycle in my own head.
Well, and you are competitive, and I'm the same way. I'm competitive with myself, and people try to figure out why I'm so driven and why I'm so motivated and self-motivated. It's because I am competitive with myself, right? I mean, you've hit the president's list every semester in college, and it's impressive. And you were competitive when you were in swim. I mean, you were incredible. Um, that was the saddest time for me when your swimming stopped, because Go Gauge was one of my favorite things to scream. So you know um but you've done some incredible things, and And I thank you for being on here today and for sharing, you know, some things about you because I think that it's, you know, I don't know. I don't know what I don't even know how to explain it all what I'm trying to vocalize because I just like I mean, yes, I'm excited you're on here, right? It's a reflection of me as a parent, right? That we've done a great job in teaching you and parenting you and giving you the space to grow into who you are. I think that's the biggest thing. You know, we never put a whole bunch of
No.
rules on you guys aside from, let me know where you are. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like we're pretty lenient
Yeah.
parents, right?
Yeah. And it's the the leniency, whenever I usually control myself pretty well when it comes to, oh, he's getting a little fit. um, when it comes to like your parenting style and stuff like that, I really am able to make a lot of my own decisions. And since I've gotten older, um, I mean, you were encouraging me to go to the club. Like, I got invited to go to Cowboys, and I was like, that's not really my crowd. It's not really my vibe. It's not my style. I don't do this. I'm responsible. I wasn't going to do anything other than stand there because I don't dance. It's just all weird to me. And she said, "Go have fun. Go do what you want, and just get out of your comfort zone, and maybe you'll have the time of your life." And I've been wanting to go back ever since, and I just haven't gone. And
Because
yeah,
you had
I
a
did.
great time.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, we encourage you guys to make your own decisions, and, I mean, yeah, we were strict about, I mean, you had to be home at a certain time. Our main thing was, let us know when you get there and let us know when you leave so we know where to look if something
yeah.
were to happen, right? We're not tracking your every move. We're not, those things. We're not helicopter parents by any means, because we want you guys to grow up because your decisions are your consequences to deal with as well, right? I mean, whatever decisions you make bring on natural consequences. And if we don't let you learn those decisions by yourself, then how are you going to learn them, right? You have to make mistakes to learn, and you have to let your kids make mistakes, and you have to let them screw up because it's the only way they learn. Um, and so, I just think you're a really responsible person, and you've just I love that you're self-competitive, and I think it's why we're so much alike in so many ways and why we're both so driven and motivated and all of the things. Gage, you're going to be anything and everything that you want to be when you grow
I
up
I think I have a lot.
because of you do. And you've accomplished a lot so as well at 19 years old. And I mean, I close my eyes and just the other day, you're just a baby.
Don't start crying. This is when you make me cry too.
It just goes so fast, you know? So I didn't see
It
that
came
coming.
right out
Sorry.
right out of nowhere.
It did. It did. I'm just so proud to be your mom, and I
I
love
love
you
you
so
too.
much. Ah, let Toothless tell everybody bye. That'll give.
Toothless had to
Oh, did
run.
he go? Is he gone? Oh, he got off your shoulder and he took off running. That's okay. I'll come give him some love in a little bit. But thank you for being on here.
Likewise.
Thank you for doing this today. Thank you for being amazing and sharing. And do you have anything you want to leave anybody with? Oh, tell them again where to find you on
You can
Facebook.
find me at Slippergenics Orchids on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. Just join that group and you'll see where I have all of my orchids listed. And usually I get an order monthly or every couple weeks. So just be looking out for that. And you can see where I have all my orchids and care sheets. And you can always message me if you have any questions. It's just Gage Moncrief on Facebook. And then, if you want to go through Slippergenics, you can go through there.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being
I love
here.
you
I
too.
love you lots and Talk to you
Bye.
later.